Hi, I'm Rachel and I'm the owner here at Roche Legal Solicitors. Today I'm talking to you if you are a carer for an older or vulnerable family member and you need some advice about how to act for them in their best interests. Today I'm going to be talking to you about 5 things that you really must know if you are looking after a loved one. The first thing you need to check is whether or not your loved one has a lasting power of attorney in place. Now, if you are their nearest and dearest, if you are their son or daughter, for example, you may think that you'll be automatically permitted to deal with their finances and make health and care decisions for them, but that's not the case. They do need to make a lasting power of attorney so that the people that they nominate can be the decision makers for them. The second thing to check is whether they've got a will in place that still meets with their wishes. Now, this is not always the easiest of conversations to have with your loved one, but it's really important that your loved one are happy that the will they have in place is still valid, still meets with their wishes, and they don't need to make any changes. And if they do, they will need to speak to a solicitor to instruct them to make those changes for them. The third thing to consider is whether or not you need a trust. Now, you may have heard friends and family talking about trusts in terms of safeguarding property, for instance, for care home fees. It's certainly something to consider, but it's not one size fits all, and you need to take some advice that suits your own circumstances. The fourth thing to consider is whether or not your loved one needs to think about doing what's called tenants in common for their property. Now, tenants in common is a type of ownership where 2 or more people own property. There's certain tips and tricks that we can do in terms of the ownership of the property to safeguard some of the property from care home fees later in life. It's something to think about. The fifth thing to consider is whether or not your relative is entitled to what's called NHS continuing healthcare. In certain cases, when someone is usually quite poorly and they're in a care home, for example, the NHS will pay some or all of the fees for that care home placement. So before you start putting your hand in your pocket and paying for care, it's really worth thinking about whether or not NHS continuing healthcare is applicable to you or not. I know that you care deeply for your loved one and you want to do what's right for them, but you'll need a plan and you need some help along the way. Click the link below to schedule a free discovery call with us today so that we can hold your hand through the process.